You guys like Alice in Wonderland? Stay with me here.
Alice in Wonderland is an odd book, which is a given. It was written in the 1800s by Victorian-era Michael Jackson and acclaimed children's author Lewis Carroll. I'd probably write some weird shit like that if I lived in a time where every drug was legal. However, the sheer oddity of the book didn't stop its success. It's held its place in pop culture thanks to things like the 1951 Disney film. Not the Tim Burton movies, though. They don't count.
The oraculum being the calendrical compendium of Underland.
So, let me ask you this. What do you get when you make your own sequel to a beloved children's story that's dark, depressing, and overall tonally different from the source material?
What the fuck is this?
American McGee's Alice, released on PC in the year 2000. This game is weird. Alice was a passion project made by the aforementioned American McGee. Yes, that is his real name. Mr. McGee started his career over at id Software, being the creative designer for games like Doom 2 and Quake. However, he was reportedly fired from his job on Quake 2 after being sabotaged. After realizing he was tired of making games that involved things like guns and aliens, he went to pursue his dream over at EA, where he made the worst trip I've ever been on. But in a good way, I think? I mean, the atmosphere definitely helps. The entire tone of the game stemmed from McGee hearing the word wonder from the song Trip Like I Do, from the Spawn soundtrack. Ah yes, Spawn, what I base all my life decisions off of.
You're right, Spawn. I should get addicted to cigarettes.
After hearing this life-changing song, McGee and his creative partner and game producer RJ Berg began working on the art and design of this game, giving the universe of Alice in Wonderland a sheen of grimy, muted colors and twisted, terrifying designs, creating a unique atmosphere for the game. The look of Wonderland is completely different from how we've seen it before, excluding the Tim Burton movies, that are 100% a ripoff of this game's tone and visuals, except worse in every way. A good example of these changes would be the exterior, with its colorful multi-patterned walls and door puzzle that has been replaced with the school, a gothic, mostly beige level suspended over a black abyss with a door puzzle. Also, instead of the hookworm, we have this fucking freak. Ew, gross, I hate him! Seriously, this is the worst character design I've seen in a video game, maybe ever! Who designed this? Who gave this design a pass? Who let this happen?
I knew it!
So, some of the characters look butt ugly. That's the point. McGee wanted his game to be a very different take on Alice in Wonderland, and while almost every design is a downgrade from other adaptations, the game just wouldn't be the same without their gross, ugly faces. This is mitigated, somewhat, with the game's fan-made HD mod. It was uploaded to Nexus by one Omri Koresh, giving a total overhaul to all of the visuals, turning the ugly crank up to 11, but in the most perfect way. Ugly has never looked this good. The visuals pair fantastically with its equally somber soundtrack, composed by Chris Vrenna, ex-drummer of Nine Inch Nails, using a mix of string, percussion, and vocals with some clock ticking, music boxes, and other ominous sounds. It makes a great companion for the visuals, even though sometimes it can get very, very repetitive, and oftentimes becomes more annoying than eerie. Seriously, listen to this. As for story, McGee decided to go with a continuation-like approach of the original two books, taking place after Through the Looking Glass, following a now 18-year-old Alice traversing through this twisted version of Wonderland after being locked up in a mental asylum for years after the death of her family in a house fire. Weird? Yes. Out of place for the source material? Fuck yes. Is it good? I like it. Keep in mind that this is a game from the early 2000s, when it was cool and original to think that Ash Ketchum was in a coma all along. I blame Joss Whedon for this. Fuck you, Joss Whedon. It's what we call the dark times, when it was a horrible time to be a Bomberman fan.
Why'd I choose Bomberman?
Honestly though, despite some of the weirder things in the story, I think it pulls off what it sets out to do, even if some elements, like the voice acting, are questionable.
No, my shell! The Duchess stole it and tried to eat me for lunch.
She's mad as monkey mash, just as tasteless.
Yeah, the voice acting isn't the greatest, but I mean, it's passable considering what we've gotten in the past. Overall, I think that the voice actors for Alice, the cat, and the White Rabbit, Susie Brand, Roger Jackson, and Andrew Chaikin respectively, do a really good job and stand out in a game where everyone else sounds like this.
Finish what you start, please. Remember, you're just a visitor.
So, considering how fantastic the atmosphere is, surely playing the actual game is as good, maybe even better, right?
You might want to sit down for this.
The game's controls are definitely controls. I just cannot defend how Alice moves. I'm fine with it most of the time, but when I have to interact with an object, I have to switch my hand from my mouse to my keyboard to hit the enter key. I know it doesn't sound like much, but God, it was so annoying having to constantly move my hand so that I can make sure if an item was interactable or not. Not to mention having to reposition for every lever, every rope swing segment. It really just bogs down the entire speed of the game overall. While the controls are bad, the physics are worse. On a second playthrough, the co-writers discovered that they could be wildly inconsistent. Sometimes, moving platforms crush Alice and take away health, which, hey, makes sense. But other times, the sheer force of Alice's massive fucking forehead makes the platforms stop dead in their fucking tracks, soft locking the whole section. And the platforming. Dear God, the platforming. Jumping in this game is a process. It feels like such a hassle sometimes. The delay between me pressing the button and when Alice actually jumps is abysmal at times. Not to mention, you can only move forward or backwards while jumping. It's insane. It's especially bad in some places, like at the library in the school. There's a part where you have to jump on some books to get across a huge gap. And the amount of times I've fallen and taken fall damage because I incorrectly timed my jump is too many to count. Not to mention the amount of enemies that have the ability to knock Alice back, pushing her off the platform. And then there's the beginning of the Vale of Tears. The platforming in this level is not good enough to warrant this. I took fall after fall, death after death, till I just decided to say fuck it and use cheats to get past this part. This game made me a cheater. I still haven't fully recovered. This game attempts to mitigate all these problems with this incredibly obtuse cursor that sometimes lets you jump to its selected position. Sometimes, getting it to even show up is like trying to find a normal Fallout fan. It may seem easy, but it's harder than you think. Anyways, I just think that control-wise, it just hasn't aged all that well. Hear me out. If you look past its flaws, and trust me, I know that's a hard thing to do for a lot of people, this game is still a really fun time. If you can get your hands on it, I think it's totally worth a try.
Now, sadly, this game isn't easily available by normal means. There is a version included with the game's sequel, Madness Returns, which I'll get to soon enough, don't worry, but this version is slightly tweaked, getting rid of things like the mod console and having a slight change in difficulty, so it's not 100% true to the original game. So if you want to play the original version, you have two options. Buy a CD copy of the game, which can run you up $100 or more, or you can sail the 7 seas. Fuck! So if you're curious about giving this game a shot, I think that, despite its flaws, it can be a decently fun time. And with that, I've been PhantomStar, and I'll see you guys in the next video, where I'll be going to rehab for my crippling nicotine addiction. Thanks, Spawn.